Racism. We all agree that it's bad. I must say, impeccable intro if I do say so myself. But today we're going to be talking about racism in Japan. Or rather, in this case, I guess the more correct terminology would be xenophobia rather than racism. It doesn't matter. Either way, it sucks. And I'm sure all of you guys who are non-Japanese, which is, I think, the majority of my audience, doesn't want to really experience any of that kind of racism or xenophobia when they go to Japan for their first time, their 5th time, or even their 100th time. But with how society has been chugging along internationally in the year of our Lord 2026, we have seen little hints and signs that Japan may be, let's say, getting back to their roots. Because I managed to find this particular article right here from japantoday.com, and I wanted to talk about it because it's an interesting piece. So ramen restaurants' English menu prices nearly double its Japanese ones, but they deny discrimination. I mean, yeah, let's be real. It would be an absolute PR nightmare if they were like, oh yeah, we're being openly discriminatory against certain races. Definitely. We're standing 10 toes on that shit. But as we'll soon find out later in this video, that also may not necessarily be the case. So let's give it a read, shall we? A complicated aspect of Japan's inbound foreign tourism boom is, ironically, that some of the most simple pleasures in Japan are proving extremely popular with tourists. So while there isn't much grumbling or hand-wringing over increased demands from tourists, flush with cash driving up demand, and in turn prices for things like top-grade Wagyu steaks when cheap price creep pressures start occurring for things like a bowl of ramen, the situation gets more complex. Do restaurant owners, especially those in areas with a lot of tourist traffic, keep their prices at their usual low levels, foregoing the higher profits they could be pulling from foreign tourists, or do they raise their prices to take advantage of tourist demand, but in the process price out local Japan resident diners whose incomes are in yen and aren't leveraging a beneficial exchange rate? Yeah, I feel like this has been a pretty large problem, or I guess not even really a problem, a large debate that has been happening in Japan as of the last couple of years. Now, mind you, when it comes to tourism in Japan, if you have visited Japan within the past, let's say since the beginning of 2024, you may have noticed, wow, there is a shitload of tourists here. And that's not just because you are in Tokyo, mind you. I saw an article the other day that said that 2025 hit the record for the amount of foreign tourism that Japan received, estimating at roughly 40 million tourists. As a kid who grew up in Australia, a country that has about 27 million people, that is an absolutely shocking number to me. And you know what? I was thinking every time I would go into like central Tokyo or places like Osaka, Kyoto, you know, the big tourist destinations, I really did stop myself to be like, is it just me? Or is there just a fuckload of people here? I wasn't just imagining it. The numbers don't lie. And I guess it makes sense because especially within the past, I'd say 5 years, ever since COVID started, the interest in visiting Japan has just increased 1,000-fold. Whether it be because a lot of Japanese-born media, like things like anime and manga, idol culture, gaming, etc., really took a huge boom on the internet over the COVID period. Or for a lot of places like America and European countries, the exchange rate is just too damn good to not go. Hence why we're also seeing a massive drop in Japanese tourism outside of Japan because of said exchange rate, even though, let's be real, the Japanese were never really much international travelers to begin with. You know, considering the fact that I believe it's only like 10% of the Japanese population even has a passport. But that's besides the point. We're talking about inbound tourism to Japan. Is it a fair game for restaurants and business owners to leverage on the fact that the exchange rate is so good for these tourists that they're basically getting everything for a steal, with the risk of potentially alienating the domestic market, aka the Japanese people? Or do they keep it the same and just deal with the huge amount of numbers and, you know, definitely higher revenue, but maybe missed out opportunities of revenue? Two-tiered pricing, charging tourists more than locals, is an idea that's been floating around in the public consciousness. But while it's not unheard of in some other countries, there's not much precedent for it in Japan. One ramen restaurant in Osaka, called Gadoya though, has begun a system in which foreigners are likely to pay roughly twice as much as Japanese customers, even if it isn't, strictly speaking, a two-tiered pricing arrangement. Like at a lot of ramen restaurants, customers at Gadoya purchase a meal ticket from a vending machine near the entrance, then hand it to the staff when they're seated. Yeah, this is pretty much commonplace for most, if not all, ramen, basically street food style places like ramen restaurants. Gadoya's machines has a video touchscreen for its interface, and its prices are pretty close to the average for restaurant ramen these days, starting at 864 yen for a medium-sized bowl of basic ramen, and larger sizes or more abundant toppings costing a few hundred yen more, which is roughly, you know, in Australian dollars, it's like $10, which is really freaking cheap for Japan standards, and I'm sure it is for a lot of Western prices. Like, I don't know what it's like in America or Canada or Europe or whatever, but let's just say you're definitely going to be paying more than $10 for a bowl of ramen. I think the last time I was in LA, I remember paying for a mid as fuck bowl of ramen. It was like $20 something or something. Yeah, it was a really sad day for me. At least that's what the prices are for the Japanese language version of the menu. If you're instead ordering using the touch panel's English language screen, the types of ramen with the same names are about double the price as shown in the tweet here. Thankfully, we don't have to go onto Twitter because they've listed it out right here. So yeah, Japanese price for a regular bowl of ramen, 864 yen. English price, 1,500 yen, which is pretty much double the price. Look, still cheap in the context of, let's say, what you would pay in a Japanese restaurant in America or Europe or Australia or anything like that, but still, it's definitely not the local price, that's for sure. And as you can see, many other examples of it being close to, if not double the price of the local dishes. Now, before we move on with the rest of the article, let's ask this question. When you look at this as a foreigner, and you find out about this as a foreigner, how do you feel? Is it justified, or is it just taking advantage of poor foreigners who don't understand Japanese? Because as someone who I would say is pretty well-traveled around the world, this is a phenomenon that I have experienced many times, especially in Southeast Asian countries. I cannot tell you the amount of times that I tried to get just a simple, like, pad thai in Bangkok, for example, and I ended up going to a, you know, relatively tourist-friendly location, as you do as a tourist, and you pay for your dish. You think to yourself, oh, yeah, okay, that seems pretty standard from my standards in my countries, but then when you actually talk to a local about it, they'll tell you, ooh, you got fucking ripped off, dog. I'm sure everyone who has traveled to a different country or a different continent, at least from their own, has experienced that at least one time, but it's very rare that you will see it in Japan to this level. Because here's the thing, right? These kinds of Japan prices being different to the English prices has actually been around for quite a while now. I would say ever since the borders opened up after the pandemic. A lot of establishments, especially in big cities and tourist cities like Tokyo, Osaka, Kyoto, have been doing this ever so subtly. Hell, there's a ramen restaurant right near my place that when I checked on the English menu, I think everything was like 200-300 yen more expensive, which, you know, granted, is probably not that much, especially if, for example, an American comes through and looks at it through the lens of the American pricing system, but still, it's $200-300 is $200-300. You can get like 2 cans of beer for that amount of money that you just got ripped off. And it seems like the tweet that exposed this place for doing this double pricing for foreigners, or at least English-speaking foreigners, was kicked off not by an American, not by a European, but by Chinese people. Because guess what? Some Chinese people can read both. Some of them can read Japanese and English. And it turns out that the tweet that originally kicked off this expose came from the tweet of the original ramen establishment that we're talking about right now, that says, right now a Chinese individual is causing trouble in the store and we are requesting police assistance. As 90% of foreign-related troubles involve Chinese individuals, I'm considering banning Chinese people from entering the premises in the future. I sincerely appreciate your understanding. This got 107,000 likes, 33 million views, dude. Because, yeah, it's like pretty blatantly racist, let's just be real. Because they never explained why it is. They tried to frame these Chinese tourists as just being, oh, these ungrateful Chinese tourists just being mad at everything because they're Chinese. You know, the whole, like, China and Japan heat is as flamed up as it's ever been. But then the tweet in question from a Japanese person, I love as well how the account is called Futsu no Nihonjin, which means a regular Japanese person, was the one that was like, yo, I can understand why they're pissed off. They're not just pissed off because they're Chinese. They're pissed off because of this egregious double standard that you are using that has been exposed by a nationality that can, most of the time, read both languages. Because let's be real, this whole thing probably wasn't going to be exposed by a Japanese person or an English-speaking tourist because they don't know any better. They can only read one or the other for most of the time. It's worth noting that Gadoya's Japanese language menu specifies that its prices are prior to the addition of the applicable 8% sales tax, while the English menu doesn't say whether its prices are pre or post-tax, which is just so slimy. You know what I mean? Like, oh, okay, so you had the decency of making sure to say that it's prior to the 8% sales tax, but the English menu, they're just like, I don't know, bro, take a fucking guess. Because let's be real, if the English menu is also prior to the addition of the tax, that means you're paying even more than you already are. You're getting ripped off even more than you already are. Either way, those are some big price gaps, especially for more expensive or large size menu items. I agree. The restaurant claims that not only are the prices different for the items of the same names on the Japanese and English menus, but that their content differs too. Quote, our ramen is not a ramen that everyone will like as is, so you can customize it, says the restaurant owner. We judge that explaining this to people who can't understand Japanese in English, European, and Chinese would be impossible. Based on that, the items on the English menu are totally different, and on the English menu, we offer only special premium ramens that will absolutely not disappoint. They are ramens that anyone will definitely like, items that people who cannot understand Japanese will like. I'm sorry, but what the fuck kind of ramen is that exactly? Because I'm gonna be straight up, I'm looking at this menu right here. First of all, seems pretty fucking standard to most, if not all, ramen establishments all over Japan. And second of all, there's not a single item here where a foreigner is going to go, ugh, brother, ugh, what's that? Because guess what? Ramen can literally be eaten by anyone. It is the most easily consumable Japanese food for any tourist, regardless of whether it's their first time in Japan, whether it's the first time they're looking at fucking ramen in their lives. It's not like you got some crazy concoction of a ramen broth that is so wacky and outlandish for the average tourist that they're just not gonna be able to even stomach the thought of it being in front of them. Like, bro, it's ramen. It's literally the easiest food you can eat for anybody. Again, the only people who are probably not gonna be able to eat standard ramen are, say for example, vegetarians or vegans, for example. But I just don't understand this whole like, oh, we can't explain to the people who can't understand Japanese that this is like impossible, that like our ramen is not suitable for anyone. Didn't you literally make an English menu? Wouldn't that already be the place to explain it in English? But no, instead, you fucking give up, you sidestep everything because you're racist or xenophobic or you're just lazy for whatever reason, or you want to take advantage of these poor tourists who probably don't know any better, and you just make up some bullshit excuse like, oh, we only give them the premium stuff that they will absolutely enjoy because, God forbid, tourists don't know how to eat normal bowls of fucking ramen like us peasant Japanese do. Unfortunately, as shown in the tweet above, the Japanese menu has written descriptions of what each type of ramen includes but no photos, while the English menu has pictures but no descriptions beyond the ramen type names. However, the written descriptions on the Japanese menu, such as 3 slices of nori seaweed, 1 slice of chashu, and greens for the standard ramen, or 3 slices of nori, 3 slices of chashu, greens and green onions for the green onion braised pork ramen, are exact matches to what's shown in the photos for the special premium ramens on the English menu. It's not uncommon for ramen restaurants to allow customization such as the firmness a customer wants their noodles cooked to, or how much oil they want added to the broth, but these are generally free of charge changes and definitely not the sort of thing that customers get double charged for. Yes, and let's be real, most of the time, the only people who are ordering things like how they want the noodles cooked or how much oil they want added to the broth is only really done by the Japanese or serious ramen connoisseurs from overseas, but I've still yet to find someone who is able to do that. Hell, I don't even do that. I just get it from the menu and that's it, because I'm not that much of a stickler for ramen. I just want to eat what's fucking given to me because I think it's delicious. Yeah, sure, you know, sometimes I might add a little bit of oil or something, or change the firmness every now and then, but again, as the article here perfectly says, those are free of charge. It doesn't excuse an extra addition of a price point. Is that what this extra money is coming from? The owner was like, oh, I spent so much time and so much of my effort to find people to like translate my menu into English, and I had to pay them for every word they translated, so I'm making it back by sneakily adding extra onto a price point, saying that it's a premium ramen even though nothing is fucking different, and then just turning the other cheek when people call me out for my xenophobia. Okay, the owner insists we're not differentiating prices based on nationality, but by whether or not customers can understand Japanese. That's kind of the same thing, mate. You are differentiating based on nationality. It's either one or none of them. The claim that Gadoya doesn't treat people differently based on nationality is a little less convincing in light of the restaurant's statement in the same tweet when it mentions the altercation with the Chinese customer, that 90% of the problems we have with foreign people at the restaurant are with Chinese people. Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, we don't discriminate against all nationalities. We just discriminate against those who don't understand Japanese. And also Chinese people. Like, bro, it's copium. It's such cringe copium. Just say, at this point, just say you're xenophobic. Like, just, let's be real. We all know what you are. You're the only person who's not admitting to doing it. You're trying to hustle poor foreigners who are just trying to enjoy a regular bowl of ramen out of a bunch of money that they probably don't even know they're getting hustled out of. Like, just admit that these are tourist prices and you're just trying to make a little extra cash from these dumb foreigners, because that's what you're doing, okay? Don't try and think that you're like, oh, we have legitimate reasons to, like, you don't. Shut up. Just shut the fuck up, please. And look, sure, maybe I'm just over-exaggerating about it because it's in a country like Japan where something like this is pretty close to being unheard of. But I feel like the further along we go, the more establishments we're going to see doing this kind of stuff because of an aging population that, let's be real, 9 times out of 10 are pretty xenophobic. I mean, we've literally seen so many news stories of certain mom and pop shops not allowing anyone who doesn't speak English because they themselves are too old and too xenophobic to care about foreigners, even if they may be following all the rules. But again, this is something that's not unheard of in other countries. I mean, fuck, me and my fiance, when we went to Paris a couple of years ago, we got denied into certain restaurants because we couldn't speak French. Like, it happens. I know and I understand that it happens, and that is on the individual establishments, not in the country itself. So all I'm going to say is shame on this particular establishment for doing this. Shame on them for backpedaling and making excuses to what is clearly just them trying to swindle some poor tourists out of some money. And I genuinely do not give two flying fucks if this is like the most delicious ramen that has ever been conceived by man. I don't want to support an establishment that does this kind of things as someone who is both Japanese and non-Japanese. Like, tourists just want to eat some ramen, bro. Just let them do it like everybody else, please. And thankfully, most establishments, at least the ones that I have seen, don't do this kind of stuff. If anything, there's a lot of establishments that I have been to that are very much catering to foreigners and want foreigners to come and enjoy their food because they're genuinely standing there with open arms to be like, hey, if you fuck with our culture, then we fuck with you. You're more than welcome back into this establishment and we will treat you like all of these other locals. But yeah, anyway, fuck this place. Don't do this kind of stuff, please. Anyways, let me know your thoughts about it down in the comments below, and thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to smack my face right here, subscribe to the channel. Let's keep making big channel number go bigger over here next to my head. A couple more videos you can check out if you enjoyed this one. I appreciate you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.